People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another show. My guest today is an artist, and her name is Asiza Demetrian, or something like that. I don't have the right accent. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me, Nancy. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Now, you might want to correct my pronunciation of your name.
It's Asiza Demetrian.
Asiza Demetrian. So what language is that from? What's your nationality?
I was born in Romania, and there's a more of a story to my life, but I mostly lived in Bucharest, and I came to Canada when I was 11 years old. So I'm very much Canadianized too.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So now, so you're an artist, right?
Yes, correct.
Oh, what kind of art, or do you define it? Do you have a definition of your art?
Yes, I would say I'm more a figurative contemporary artist, and I've never really did anything else. And all my life, I started when I was 6 years old, and I've always drawn figures, and I've always wondering why I only like to draw figures, and because there's a lot of kids that draw horses, flowers,
Sure.
cats, dogs. I only stuck to figures. But when I turned 35, I realized why from a young age I started to draw figures. And that's when my parents decided to tell me a family secret that and the secret was that I was adopted and that I was separated from an identical twin.
Oh.
And yes, and we were, at the time when I was adopted, I was 4 years old from when I was separated from my sister. And her name is Gina.
And oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what happened? Why that? Because I was adopted at 4 years old, and I was living in a region of Romania called Moldova. And not the country, but it's a region in Romania called Moldova. Okay. But it's a very, an influence of the Russian language. Ah. And so I was adopted, and then I was brought to Bucharest. And after a year of being adopted, my sister came for a brief visit for about a week. And from what my mom told me when I found out at 35 that when she came to visit me for a week, we were both so excited to be together, and apparently we were jumping on the bed and almost broke the bed, and we just had the best moment together. But then she left, and I think this is when it all started for me. Wow. Because I started to draw figure, and it kind of stuck with. At the same time, I continued to draw figures and evolved over the time period. Like I started around 6 years old to draw figures. And I think for me, and when I realized, all my life I questioned, why am I drawing figures? Mm. And I've always felt this missing part of my life. I didn't feel complete, and I think that many times I actually felt depression for many years too. And then because I felt a disconnection from who I was. Mm. And then when my parents decided to tell me, I thought, I had that aha moment. I go, yes, that was the reason why I started to draw figures. It's because that was my way to keep the connection with my sister. Mm. That was the thing that really, it's just so nice to have the answer to the question that I've always asked myself. But the thing also with my sister, yes. So when I found out at 35, but it wasn't like one of those situations where my parents didn't, I would say mostly my mom really didn't want me to know the secret. Like apparently everybody knew from my family, okay, including my sister, about my existence. Right. But I didn't know I didn't know about my family. I knew about my family, like in Romania. I knew uncles, aunts, cousins, and even my sister was passed on to me as a cousin. I remember having a picture of her when she came to visit me. I had a picture of her, but her haircut was so different from mine, even for we are identical. And you can really change somebody's appearance. Yes. And actually, I actually, what I did not too long ago, but a couple of years ago, I said, I'm going to Photoshop my hair onto hers. And I tell you, yes, we're identical, just making that small change. Right. And, but, after I found out the family secret, a lot of stuff came out. Like, it's a lot of things that I was really hurt. One of the biggest pains for me, it was that, like, how my sister always knew about my existence, and how much she tried to connect with me, but she couldn't, and on purpose. And I actually, I used to receive letters from her, but and the rule was she had to be like right from like a cousin, not like an identical twin. Right. So when you find these out, it's just to go, wow. And at the same time, I'm trying to think of, like, back then adoptions were secretive. They're not like out in the open like these days. And my mom too, she raised me as she gave birth to me. Like, I was just absolutely shocked when I found out that I was adopted and I have an identical twin. Like, that is just, it took a long time for me to accept that, because both of my parents, they were very, very loving, very good people, very good-hearted people. But at the same time, my mom raised me as her own, and she almost felt like, because she was kind of pressured to tell me. So, and that's why I think and one of the reasons I found out later in my life, because they felt, well, they wanted to tell me when I'm most happiest. And that's when I was married recently, and I on my way to have so if they wanted to tell me when I'm most happiest, when I'm not, in school, and the school was very hard for me. Like, it was not hard, but it was challenging, because it was one of the best schools in Canada, and I was studying graphic design, and the courses were very challenging for many students. So I had to work very hard at it. And they thought, if they didn't want to tell me then either, because what if it would completely, and it probably would have taken me off my path. I would have maybe dropped out, because how can you deal with the stress of school and then the finding out the truth, So, so for me, it's been a challenging time ever since. And that's how, and I think painting, I was kind of painting in secret too. Like, I wasn't showing my art to anybody, because all my painting is about, it's figurative. It's a story behind every piece what I create, and it's really about me, my connection with my twin, where I always try to paint the feeling I would want to have with her when she's with me. It's almost like in my vision board. Like, that's what I want to have back in my life, is that connection with my twin, like a physical connection. Like, spiritual connection, we have that already, but it's the physical connection. And that eventually, and I couldn't really show my art, because my parents were still alive. And I had the respect for my parents. I didn't want to, upset them. So I wanted to come out after they passed away. So unfortunately, my mom, she passed away in 2001. It was one of the most devastating moments in my life, because even though we had a rocky relationship, but at the same time, it was very loving relationship too. Like, I loved her unconditionally, and my father too. I loved him unconditionally. And I was even like, when I found out he wasn't my dad, like I was just shocked because he took on the role of a father.
Sure.
And I forgot to kind of mention at the beginning, I was adopted by my aunt. Actually, it was an adoption within the family.
Okay.
So she actually was born in the same house where I was,
Oh my
where I was born. Yeah. So I understand my mom, why she is the way she is. And at the same time, I have a lot of admiration for my mom, because only like at the time when I was living in Romania, and my mom too, when she was growing up in Romania as a young girl, was communist.
Right.
It was a communist country, and living in a communist country, it's very challenging, where you don't have a lot of the freedom to do the things you do, which I think a lot of us here, we take it for granted.
For
Like
sure.
for instance, like if you want to move to another city, like especially like big city, like Bucharest, you have to apply to move to a big city. You
Okay.
just don't pack up your bags and go. Yeah.
Right.
And my mom, so what my mom is, I admire her so much, because she, you know, we lived in a village. It
Right.
was we were a poor village,
Right.
where we you know, there wasn't high, you know, like the education was okay, but she was very smart, because she knew the only way she can get to Bucharest if she would educate herself. So she was an avid reader, so she enriched her vocabulary, so that way when she gets to Bucharest, she'll be able to talk with people who are highly educated. And that's exactly what happened. She managed to get to Bucharest, and she met my father, and she was a very beautiful woman. Even now, when I see her, when I think of her as Brigitte Bardot of Bucharest, because she knew how to dress, she knew how to speak, she knew how to carry herself. So of course she attracted my father, who was also highly educated man. He was an economist working in a bank, and he came from a very wealthy family at one time, but of course the communists took it all away. And I think that was another reason where we left Romania, because my father didn't see a good future living in that country.
Yes.
And plus he didn't like that what happened to him and his family. Like for one day they're so wealthy, and then they have nothing.
Yeah.
So he had struggled, you know, and a lot of Romanians have struggled, you know, like lining up for bread and potato. Even myself, I stood in line for potatoes, and I was only like 10 years old. So those are the things but at the same time, I feel very blessed that I had that experience, because you come from a place of appreciation, what you really have and what matters. So over the years, I've always wanted to reconnect with my sister, and finally, she's married with 2 children, 2 boys, and so I planned a surprise to go to Romania, and she lives in a city called Brașov in Transylvania.
Okay.
So I planned to go surprise her, and that was in 2014. And I tell you, I went there, and I was so nervous. I just didn't know how. I really couldn't picture how it's going to happen. And I remember the moment when I see her outside the building where she was living. I could see her crossing the street, and I start crying just seeing her from a distance. And even now, it's very emotional for me.
Imagine, yeah.
Sorry.
No
Sorry.
apologies, please. No apologies.
Yeah, and when she walked, I remember the moment when she opened the door, and her face, when we looked at each other, what she couldn't believe, because she looked at me as if I was a holograph. And there's a moment where she's so confused, like it's almost like she lost herself. She didn't know where she was, because it's something that she's been dreaming for so many years, for 30, 40 years. Can you imagine? We were separated. That was a reconnection after 47 years.
Wow.
So that moment finally came true. And I remember we just held each other and we cried and we held hands. We slept in the same bed. We walked everywhere hand in hand, and we had so many beautiful men. We cried, we laughed, we just shared so many stories, and yes, it was just such a beautiful moment in our life. And also, like many years ago, I tried to bring her to Canada to visit me, and because I wanted to come here, bring her here and spoil her. I feel like her life was different from my life.
Sure.
Like people probably wondering, like, oh, how we are alike? We're very much alike on things that really matter. Like, for instance, like how we're both very compassionate people. We're very sensitive people, very empathetic people. But at the same time, we grew up in two different environments.
Right.
Like she grew up in a communist country, and I grew up in a democratic country.
Yeah.
So even so, for instance, it's interesting, like when she came to visit me in 2014, I saved this denim skirt for her, and it's a little shorter, like it's in a couple of inches above the knee. And I said, oh, Gina, I have the perfect skirt for you, because I think you'll love this, and it will go with so many blouses. And she goes, oh no, I can't wear that. And I go, why? You got great legs, show them off, And he goes, no, if I go back to Romania and I wear that, all the women going to give me dirty looks. And I'm like, wow, it's a different culture, right? It's a different cultural experience. And I mean, we both have the same legs. And I remember when I went to Romania the first time to surprise visit, our pictures, you can see she's wearing the long dress and I'm wearing a short skirt. There, as you can see the difference right there. Right. And I think it's because of the environment we grew up in. Mm-hmm. So after I found out about my sister, my parents passed away, that's when I started putting my art out there. Like I felt, and that was my therapy. Right. That was, that's my therapy. And not just my therapy, but because she was hidden from me on purpose. Right. Yeah. That is the thing. She was hidden from me on purpose. I want to tell people I'm painting my sister because I love her and she's so important to me. She's so significant to me, because all this, can you imagine being a twin and one gets picked and the other one doesn't? How did that make her feel? I can't, no, right? Yeah. So, and even the story, it's an amazing story, like how we got picked. Like, so, like I said earlier, my mom was born in the same house, and she decided to come to where me and my sister were living in Moldova, at this little small house in a village, and approached our mother. But I think it's a conversation they had earlier, because my mom would not even just show up like that. So it's something that I think that would have been planned, because it's not like back then they didn't have, maybe they would have sent a telegram, because in the country living, it's different from the city living. So my mom wouldn't have just showed up. So I think the purpose of that trip of my mom to figure out which twin to pick. So my mom was a very intelligent woman. So one day what she did, she took me and my sister to get some water from a fountain. Like it was not a fountain, a well. Well, right. And this well was kind of like a bit dangerous. It was like a hole in the ground. And it was, so before, when our birth mother would take us to always warn us, don't go near that well because there's a monster that eats kids. So me and my sister were terrified to go to this well. So I think my mom would have known that, knew that lesson. So what she did, she took us to this well, and all of a sudden, me and my sister stopped at one point, and we said, no, we don't want to go any farther. She goes, okay, then you two girls, you wait here, because I'm gonna go get the water, and but you have to stay, okay? And my mom, as she walked away, she said to herself, you know what? The one that listens, that's one I'm gonna adopt. So when she came back, one stayed, one left. And that's when she took the one that stayed by the hand and asked our mother which one this is I would like to adopt. So that was me. That was my destiny. Yeah, so yes.
Yes.
So sorry, if you have any questions for me, please ask.
Oh, this is so fascinating. Well, I'm just wondering, did your parents have other children? Your adoptive parents?
No, I grew up as an only child. And then I do have other siblings. I have also I have three brothers, but unfortunately in 2019, my brother Vivian, his name is Vivian, got killed in Bucharest.
Right.
It's been a very, very traumatic experience for the whole family, you know, and especially now, I'm so glad my sister, we have each other.
Yes.
Because we really helped each other get through this difficult moment in our lives, and still are.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm just going to say that's another very strong difference between the two of you. You grew up as an only child while she didn't, right? Exactly.
And I also, after I found out I have a twin, looks identical like me, and I couldn't believe it, but then at the same time, I kind of lived with this guilt after too, because I had a pretty good life. You know, I live in a democratic country. My parents are taking good care of me. I got a chance to travel, and here I'm going to one of the most prestigious art schools in Canada. You know, my parents are supportive of what I'm doing. Then I got a job offer while I was in my fourth year to come to Vancouver, Canada, to work as a graphic designer. I don't know if anybody remembers, but Woodward's. That was my first job where I loved it. It was the best job ever because I worked with the most amazing people, and lived in West End by Stanley Park. And all of a sudden you hear, oh my, you were adopted and you have a twin who lives in a communist country who life hasn't been very challenging for her because see, I'm going to art school while she is working in a factory, you know, putting little pieces together. And I'm thinking, and she's a talented girl too, but didn't have the same opportunities as I did. And that's really hard to take because, you know, it would have been great if we both got adopted, then would have been awesome. Life would have been so much more beautiful, you know, and but you know, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted to paint is because you know, really she is the most important part of my life. I mean, she completes me. It's like that missing puzzle. And then it's like so we talk quite often but our time is every Sunday. We talk for like hours, from 10 to for like 3 hours. So we catch up and you know, it's amazing like, you know, how much like so much always things to say, you know, to each other, no matter even during the week, we talk to each other, you know, and but you know, I think my mother, biological mom, like I know she regrets it very much that she made that decision to give me up. But I think when you're a mother, you understand why she did that. You know, I never felt anger or, oh, how come you give me up? No, she actually, because she wanted us to have a better life, because you've got to remember we were very poor, you know, it was a very poor, you know, and she felt that at least one will have a better life, but then the other one stays, wouldn't have to divide with the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would have the twin would have more. And even my siblings, my brothers, like they always knew about me because my picture was on the wall. They
Oh,
never, yeah, like my sister, there was always cute pictures of me, my sister, we were like 2.5 years old.
right.
And they never like, I was still part of the family.
Yeah.
And when I was about 17 and a half, we decided to go to Romania, me and my mom, as a mother and daughter trip.
Right.
This is a very interesting story. So I thought, oh, wonderful. This is great. I'm looking forward to meeting, going to see where, we go to Romania. And sure enough, we go to Moldova,
Right.
the place. But at the time, you got to remember, I didn't have no idea.
Yes. Right.
When I go there, I remember going to this house, and the gentleman opens the door, and apparently at the time I thought it was my uncle, but he was actually my father. And I've never remember, that was the first time I saw him. Like when I was 4 years old, I never saw him after that. And then all of a sudden I see this woman. She was sitting across from me in a chair outside in the yard. She's just staring at me. And I was so uncomfortable. I go, why is she staring at me?
Yeah.
But then I found out later, well, she's your mother. She has every right to, like, she wanted to stun me because she hasn't seen me since I was very young and I was living in Romania. So, but I found out afterwards that trip, that was not a trip to have a mother and daughter trip. Actually, my mom wanted me to marry a Romanian person.
Oh, okay.
So she had discussed to talk with our cousin. Actually, it was my dad's cousin, and to arrange this meeting to meet this Romanian guy. And I was not interested. I mean, I was 17 and a half. Like, who would think about marriage at 17? I was still a child, I think. Right. Yeah. I was definitely not. I didn't even know who I was. Like, how do you know how to marry somebody who you don't know who you are? So I remember my mom started planning this, and I didn't know that till later. But then the sad part about it is that also, like, so yes, I'm so sorry. I'm kind of going off track here. Okay. But so my mom's intention didn't want us to stay there for very long, because our purpose of that trip is to go to Bucharest so I can meet this person, and I didn't know anything about it. It was just a shock at the time that the plan was. Right. But the thing is, my father, or my biological mother, she made the mistake to say to my mom, my adopted mom, she said, "Oh, I'm gonna send a telegram to Gina that to come here because Asiza's here." And my mom did not want that. She panicked. So meanwhile, one of the parents sent a telegram, because my sister was living in a different city at the time. Right. She was going to a technical school in Brașov, where she's actually living there right now. And when she received the telegram, she went and talked to the dean of the school and said, my sister's here, explain the story of how we were separated, and this is my only chance I could go see my sister. Like, you have to get a permission, Okay. So my sister traveled all night. She took the bus, and traveled all night. But in between, while she's traveling all night, in between, when my mom found out my sister's on her way, she had my cousin, who was a police officer there at the time, and he took me away from there. Oh. So I went to, and I remember very clearly, because I don't like traveling at night when it gets dark. Mm-hmm. And he was driving so fast because he's a police officer, and in the dark. And I remember we almost ran into a guy with a carriage, like with horses and a carriage, and he didn't have the proper lights. Right. And he was getting mad, and like he was taking his baton and hitting the car. That just stayed with me forever, right? That kind of that kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, that's what I remember. And so my sister arrived the next day. My mom stayed behind,
Right.
and they had this heated discussion,
Mm.
like with my mother, how it is important is for us to know about each other,
Yeah.
reconnect. And my mom refused. She goes, no, she's not ready. She's not ready. And so my mom refused. And what happened the next day, my mom, she was staying at my grandma's house at the time. So my mom didn't want to deal with this type of stress anymore from my biological family.
Right.
And she decided to take the bus like around 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And so, if you've seen her, I mean, she was like blonde, really well put together. And when you live in the country there, like people are dressed country like,
Yeah.
So she was in the bus stop hiding behind a tree, try to not make herself obvious, because she wanted to take the bus to get back to another city where one of her sisters lived.
Okay.
And but sure enough, somebody noticed her, and that was probably like about 6 a.m. when the bus was there. And around 9, this gentleman who saw my mother in the bus stop, and I go, hey, I saw your sister-in-law. And to my sister, my biological mother, and say, oh, I saw her waiting for the bus. And my sister started crying. She started crying because she realized that she's not able to see me. Like, it's something that she's been dreaming for so long. And it was her wish. And also, so my mom said, you know what, Gina, this is what you're going to do. Get on the bus and go to a city, Galatz, where she assumed that I might be there. And that's my mom's, who adopted me, sister too. Like that's, okay. So my sister got on the bus, and she took, for a couple hours, she traveled to the city, Galatz. And she arrived at the house. And this is a house where she vacationed every summer.
Right.
It's not like it's our aunt's place.
So she's familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? She rang at the door out the gate, and the gate's really high. You can't really see. It's not like a short gate. You can't see above. So all of a sudden, our aunt opens the door, and she's shocked to see Gina there. And he goes, okay, Gina, just wait here. And she closed the door. And a few minutes later, my mom comes out that adopted me.
Right.
And she says, Gina, what are you doing here? Asiza's not here. She left. She's at the Black Sea vacationing with our friends. And my sister was devastated. She cried. And then not only that, they didn't even invite her in the house. Like they treated her like a stranger. Like, and my sister should have put 2 and 2 together. Like, why aren't you inviting me inside the house? And then my mom ended up escorting her to the bus stop and putting her on the bus and sent her back to her family in the village. Yeah. And then when my sister told me this is actually found out not till like about 10 years ago, because we talk so much about things of our lives. And I started crying. I cried and I cried. I cried because I felt we were robbed of beautiful moment, really.
Yes.
And Nancy but realized I was so deeply hurt. My trust was hurt. Like, sure. I was so deeply hurt. And to see my sister was hurt. Like, it was just, it was absolutely devastating.
I was just going to say
devastating.
that at the same time, your mother, who adopted you, thinks she's doing the right thing, right?
Exactly. So I was really, and my mom passed away. It's not like I could face her, talk to her about this and see why. And it took me a long time to figure something out. I figured it out. Like, the only way you can forgive somebody, if you have an understanding where they come from, what are their life experiences, because we were all born as innocent children, but sometimes life experiences gives us different, it kind of molds us into different beings. And I think my mother, and I realized with my mom, the way, yes, she was very controlling. I was an only child, but so she kind of loved me so much, but at the same time, she with living in a country, in a communist country, where it's like you have to be in control of your life to survive, to get ahead, to have a better life. So she had, at a young age, had to control her life and the things around her. So it became a way of life. So when I had that understanding of who she is, it was easy to forgive.
Oh, nice.
It was easy to forgive. And I think that's the key thing to forgiveness.
Yeah.
Have an understanding why people do what they do.
Right. Now, on that note, we're out of time.
Yes.
However, you're going to have to come back on the show because I haven't seen any of your art.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. Should I come show some of my art to you while I'm
next time? Because I got to prepare. I have another interview coming up.
Okay, super.
So, but this has been so informative and such a deep story, and I appreciate so much you sharing it. Like I said, next time though, you're gonna share your artwork. So I'm gonna say goodbye to the audience, and then you and I'll talk a little bit off camera. Okay.
Super.
So
thank you.
Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you were as moved by this story as I was, and I hope you will watch it and share it with your friends, because it is an important story so we get an idea of what it is for other people who, we don't go through the same things, or maybe we have similar things. So it's important for all of us to hear and listen to other people's stories. So thanks again, everybody. Take care and peace out. Until next time.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.